Pest infestation? Call Bugman, because when you see red, bugs are dead.
All right, it is November 9th, Sunday, November 9th. We're going to do a recap. We didn't do one last week. That's my bad. We had some things going on. So we're going to do this one today. And more than likely, we won't have another one until next week because I'll be on vacation. But I kind of wanted to do one tonight. This might be a little bit more in-depth than normal. But just giving a rundown of this week, last week, coaching searches, where things might be going, names you're hearing. Not to mention, hey, college football's up. College football's up and going. Some people should be very happy, and we'll talk about that too. So we always start with Roanoke College. Roanoke College played Washington and Lee this week, and if you've listened all year, then you knew that I said this is probably a game Roanoke College was going to run into some problems, just like Bridgewater and Randolph-Macon. So it ended up being about, if you look at all three of their scores, they basically ended up being about the same. This week, they took it on the chin at Washington and Lee, 35-14. They had lost to Hampton-Sydney 35-10. Then they had lost to Randolph-Macon 35-17. So as long as they win next week against Averett, I believe it is, they should finish up 6-4 on the year. Which, that's, I know people in that have, been in that program don't want to hear 6-4, but to be a first-year school full-time in the ODAC, I think that's I think we'd have to give a round of applause to the coaching staff, to the players, and everybody involved over there. I just hope that they come out this weekend and get that W, because that's, you end the season with a win that gives you a little momentum going into next year. And so I think they're going to come in fifth as long as they win this week, and I think that's pretty good for a first year Division I program who is in the same league as a Randolph-Macon, who makes the playoffs every year. So good job, Roanoke College. Let's talk a little bit real quick before we get into where we were right, where we were wrong. Let's get into a little bit of the coaching searches and stuff going on. You keep hearing James Franklin for Virginia Tech out there, and I've had some people tell me it was a done deal. Basically, they're just waiting on a few things here and there. Then I've heard some other things. They're still rambling. They're still looking from the Franklin camp. So we still don't know. I mean, I think as long as as of today, as of 7 o'clock tonight, no other big job is open. What scares me is if Florida State opens. I said we didn't have a radio show this week, but I put the sheet out, and in the notes section there, I basically said, were they tarmacking this year, talking about Florida State's coach. The thing is they came out earlier in the year and they said that they were going to wait to the end of the year and discuss what they have to do. The problem with them is they're going to have to spend $100 million or more to get rid of him. So I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know if they'll be able to do that. But maybe Franklin's hanging around for that. Maybe he's hanging around for Florida or LSU to call. Like, they can't get people. Like I saw today, Kiffin signed a contract extension. So Kiffin's not going anywhere. So Florida and LSU, if he's on your list, take him off. I will say a name I'm hearing is Lincoln Riley. I think Lincoln Riley is going to end up at Florida or LSU. Just a hunch, throwing that out there. He is still coaching USC. They're still in the hunt for a college football playoff bid. I just think Lincoln Riley wants out of Southern Cal. Southern Cal is not the school or the program that it used to be now that it's in the Big Ten. People can disagree with me all they want. I'm just telling you, now that you're not the big dog in your league of the Pac-12 anymore. You're now in a league which you're not even geographically in the right location with. But Oregon has come on. Obviously, you have Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, if and up when they get going. Now you have Indiana to contend with. They're not the big dog anymore. So there's no reason for him to stay out there, be mediocre, because they're going to expect the same results of USC when they were in the Pac-12. Those days are over. I hate to tell the USC people that, but those days are over. You might have a team and you might get somebody in there that's good, and you might have a little run. But all in all, I think he's gone. I think he's going to end up at LSU or Florida. That's just a hunch. I've heard some rumblings from some of the guys that I follow on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I just think his name, if somebody's looking for a big name, that's the name that you got to go try to go get is Lincoln Riley. So I think you're going to see him at one of those two jobs. I think Auburn is going to end up with the Sumrall guy, from the Tulane coach. Arkansas, I've heard a couple of rumblings. I can't remember the name exactly of somebody going there. But I think Lane Kiffin's gone. So gone in terms of he's no longer available. He signed that extension. So they're going to have to turn to somebody else. I think Penn State's going to end up with somebody like, and I said this, I've said this to a couple people, Hartline, the offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach at Ohio State. Now, it's going to be hard to convince Penn State that that's the right hire. And obviously, you got to worry about what happens when Ohio State opens up. Is he going to leave? But I think in terms of recruiting, he's a heck of a recruiter. So I wouldn't overpay for the guys just because of a name right now. I think that's where people are getting in trouble. So I think you're going to see some of these smaller names pop up. Franklin, I guess Florida could take a swing if they've heard enough no's. I don't know. I think Franklin, if he was smart, to me, going to Virginia Tech is the right decision. Now, in saying that, you also got to keep in mind though, I'm in the league of the ACC is not going to be around in a few years. I think the more that things get pushed down the SEC and the Big Ten's throat, it's going to change. And my whole take on this is it's at some point you're going to be at 20 teams in a league, 20 or 24 teams in a league, and then you're going to have two 12-team leagues in the SEC and 12 in the Big Ten, and that's going to end up being your playoff, if you will. What does that mean? Well, that means the ACC will get rated, and that means the Big 12 will get rated, and probably some of the new. Well, I don't even know if anybody wants anybody, because there's a Big 12 coming next year. They're going to try to say they should get a bid, but I can tell you right now, SEC and Big 10 are going to say, especially after the fact that you've got a non-Power 5 this year that's going to take away a spot from one of those two leagues. I mean, because if you think about what's going to happen this year, we're taking the top 12. So let's say Oregon loses again. Let's say they're sitting at 12, or Texas is sitting at 12. So we want the best 12. Well, according to the poll that's coming out, 1 through 12 should go, right? Right. Except for the fact of you got to put a non-Power 5 team in there. So now you've got a non-Power 5 team that's not ranked. Although I did see JMU got ranked today. So that'll be interesting. I think JMU might have the inside track there since Memphis has lost 2. And that AAC is kind of beating each other up. The problem is, like I said, even if JMU is ranked, say they're 20th. So you're going to jump the 12th ranked team, 13th ranked team, 14th ranked team, 15th ranked team, so on and so forth, till you get to number 20, which is where JMU is, and then they get in the playoff. Well, that makes no sense. Look, this is not about that. We're not handing out trophies because you're not as big as the other guys and you just did better than the other small guys. I mean, we want the 12 best or 16 best or whatever it ends up being. You know, I don't understand. Division III does it. Division II does it. Division I AA does it. And then we get over here to the Division I level. We put in stupid rules. So I think that's something to keep in mind and to watch going forward after this year. Is that they're not going to allow one of their teams to be sitting there 12th and get kicked out, or 16th. So, you know, I could say 12th and then somebody will say, well, they'll just move it to 16. No, it might be 16. They still could be 16. And this year, one of those teams wouldn't get in. You would have to be in the top 15. So I think this whole non-Power 5 thing is getting ready to crush the non-Power 5 leagues and schools. That's just my opinion. I don't know that there's a time limit for Virginia Tech to hire somebody. I know they're very anxious to get it hired. You know, and another thing that could be with Virginia Tech is they could have very well said, hey, Franklin, we want to hire you. Here's the deal. Because I've heard they've made the offer. Hey, who's going to be your offensive coordinator? Who's going to be? Well, he might have said, hey, I need some time to see who I can grab. Because I'm not going to be able to grab anybody right this second because they're in the middle of some of these guys that I might grab are in the middle of a playoff hunt. So I think that might be, dragging the hire out as well. Not to mention, maybe they say, hey, Franklin, who do you want as a GM? Give us 5 names. Well, they got to talk to those names and vet those names. And same thing, if they're in the middle of a college football title hunt, then they might not be willing to talk to anybody. So this thing might drag on for another couple weeks. I would think around Thanksgiving, things will should for the most part be settled, I would think. So we'll see. I don't know we'll see how that goes. Another thing I wanted to talk about locally is the Red Sox, the baseball team over in Salem. They rebranded yesterday. They are now going to be the Ridge Yaks. So I can only assume that means because of the Blue Ridge and for kayaking and so forth. But it is a yak, which looks like a bull, in a kayak on the water. They sent out a couple of different logos today, and they have like a Y, or Y, like connected, similar to like the Yankees symbol. I don't know. I guess they're doing it. I mean, that's all brand new, gear that people got to buy. So I guess that's a good thing. But yeah, they rebranded yesterday. So let's look at where we were right this week. And I did not do one last week, but we had a pretty good week last week. But this week we went 8-3, 8-3 on our sheet that I put out on Friday night because we did not get to do radio. We were right on Syracuse 28.5, barely. It ended up being 28 points, but we got it by the half. Clemson beat Florida State pretty good. We were right on Wake. We took Wake. I just thought Virginia had played with fire way too much, and it was going to bite them at some point. It did. I told you we were right on Texas Tech. I told you this was Vegas begging you to take a lot of points in BYU, a ranked team, undefeated in the top 10. We were right there. Bama, we took Bama. LSU's just a dumpster fire right now. We took Iowa. Iowa should have won outright, but they did cover the 6.5. Friday night, we gave you Houston. They covered. We told you to take UConn. Remember, I've been on Duke all year. I even said been on the bandwagon. But something seemed, that line kind of jumped up. And not only did they cover the line, but they won the game. So that's pretty good. We were wrong. We were wrong with Florida. You talking about not showing up wanting to play. Florida they've tanked. So if you've got them on your schedule in the next few weeks, pay attention to that. Lagway, they benched him. Pay attention to that. We were also wrong on Missouri and A&M. I really thought Missouri's defense would, and they did in the first, quarter and a half. They really kind of tied up A&M's offense, but then A&M's offense got going. So we were wrong there, which I'm not opposed to. And then I really thought Louisville would come out and take care of Cal. Cal having to move from west to east, but Cal pulled off the upset. So basically, all the ACC teams this week that were in the hunt, took a loss. So Duke lost, Virginia lost, Louisville lost. So now you got a 5-way tie. You got 5 teams with 1 loss. The good news is this thing will play out. These teams play each other. Duke plays UVA this week, and I think, maybe a week or 2 from now, Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech play. So basically, you could go from 5 to 3, maybe even 5 to 2, and this thing will settle itself out as we go. Looking forward to next week. If you haven't looked ahead, I'll just tell you it very well could be. Well, in terms of playoff contention, we'll know on Tuesday. They'll have another ranking out Tuesday. But this is a stacked week if you like college football. So YouTube TV, you better get it fixed because people are really going to be angry because this week is going to be good. Like on Friday night, you got Clemson, Louisville, and I know Clemson's been a disappointment this year, but they bounce back against Florida State. They travel to Louisville. That line has come out at Louisville minus 3.5. Notre Dame and Pitt are this week. Pitt is one of those teams that is ranked and also has the 1 loss in the ACC. So this just doesn't affect them, but Pitt can play spoiler on Notre Dame. Notre Dame loses again, they're out. I gotta believe Notre Dame opens as a 10.5 point favorite. Arizona and Cincinnati, that's a big game on Saturday. I know you might not, if you're not a Big 12 fan, it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. Cincinnati's opening as a 6-point spread, it's a 6-point favorite, but that should be a good game to watch. Arkansas and LSU. So LSU opened as a 6.5 point favorite. Man, they were terrible the last couple games, so that's something to keep an eye out on. West Virginia seems to have found their legs. They're traveling to Arizona State. Arizona State is a 10.5 point favorite. The big games, you got Oklahoma at Alabama. Alabama opens as a 7-point favorite. You've got Virginia and Duke locally. That's a huge game. Both of those have 1 loss in the ACC, so somebody's getting knocked out. 6.5 point favorite for Duke. NC State at Miami. Can NC State pull off another upset? Miami opens 14.5. James Madison and App State this week. That's always a big game. Wow. James Madison is 19.5 point favorite right now. That's a lot. Florida at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is only a 13.5 point favorite. That's a head scratcher because Florida was terrible this week. You got Virginia Tech and Florida State. Florida State is a 12.5 point favorite over Virginia Tech. That's a lot of points. Excuse me. Texas and Georgia. Texas is at Georgia. Georgia's a 6.5 point favorite. I've said it all year. I'm not a big fan of. I don't think Georgia's that great. They are finding ways to win. Texas seems to have found their defense a little bit, so that'll be an interesting game. Both of those teams are in the top 10 if you looked at the rankings last week, so that's going to be an interesting game. One of those guys is getting knocked out. And then this is not a big time game, But I want to see what happens with TCU and BYU. BYU, with their first loss, goes back home. BYU's a 5.5-point favorite. TCU can throw the ball, man. They can throw the ball. So that's going to be interesting. That game right there, that's a late game on Saturday night. So I'll be in Vegas next week. So you probably won't get a follow-up. Well, that's if the airlines get me there. But with this shutdown, and or I get back in time. But we're going to have the radio, and we're also going to still have the pick sheet. That'll go up on Friday, and I believe the radio is on this week as well. So hopefully you got some money this week, because we did pretty good this week and last. So I'm hoping I can go for 3 weeks in a row. So when we get out to Vegas, we can make a little money. And I'll tell you, pass along some things that I see out there from some of those guys, the sharps, and at some of the sports books during the week. But anyway, we will catch you on the other side. Heathens Kettle Corn and Mobile Grill. You can find them at Dr. Pepper Park, local Roanoke events, and also now doing fundraising with teams, organizations, churches, etc. Find them on Facebook, Heathens, Kettle Corn, and Mobile Grill.